Hello, student. Come along, child. Destination unknown. Hello, student. What you're looking at is a photograph of a farmhouse in upstate New York. This photograph was taken sometime early in the 1900s, and it shows where I grew up, Mr. Turek. And the part I want to point out is the bottom left pair of windows with a door to the right. In my childhood, that was our television viewing room. The kitchen is way off on the right, the television room is way off on the left, and we would go tromping back and forth to enjoy movies, particularly on a Saturday night. So we developed a kind of pattern that said we had this huge bowl, wooden bowl, for making popcorn. And unfortunately, when I was a teenager, I broke it. So what you're looking at is a replacement bowl that my parents bought, as well as one for each of us four kids as we finally finished growing up and left. And the tradition was to fill this popcorn bowl with popcorn. And here's a shot from somewhere around just before 2000 or so. And that's my dad on the right, that's me on the left. And we're standing outside with our popcorn bowl, enjoying it while waiting to watch the International Space Station do a flyover. So, enjoying popcorn, enjoying the movies has long been a tradition in our family, particularly on the weekends. Um, there'd be this list of movies that we'd want to watch, and we have to bear with all the commercials and the fact that we only get three channels and we're out in the country. This is a 30-second video clip of my dad making popcorn, and the I sorry I don't have the audio patched in right now, but the idea is that's a Brazilian popcorn popper. I got him on one of my trips, and he's pointing out that you have to pop it until the popcorn just pushes the entire lid right off the container, and this is great. And you can see this is the second batch of popcorn to come out of that one container, and it takes all that to fill the bowl, and then we would dive into this stuff. Um, Back then, in the old days, he put a lot of butter on the stuff, which was extremely unhealthy. But we would dive into it and, as a family, work our way through pretty much all that popcorn in one evening. So, what I want to do now is just close out with sharing with you a movie list I would suggest for you students to enjoy. And it's not entirely great, but these are movies that I had enjoyed or at least want to suggest. So, I have basically three lists. And the format is you've got the title of the movie, the year it came out, and like more or less typically a one-line comment about it. So this first list is particularly for the aerospace engineering students, and it's in historical chronological order. So the Aeronauts, the first movie listed, even though it's the most recent movie on the list as far as when it was produced, is about the oldest point in time relative to the rest of these movies. And we watched part of it actually during this school year, I believe at the end of the fall semester or so. It came out in October. So that suggested The Winds of Kitty Hawk is not a very high quality movie as far as production values and everything, but it does at least cover the history of the Wright brothers. Spirit of St. Louis, it's a black and white movie with Jimmy Stewart, and he does a fine job about the life of Charles Lindbergh. Castles in the Sky is about a group of weather men, and they end up inventing and developing radar as a useful tool for World War II. Imitation Game, well, you can read these things. I shouldn't read every one of these to you out loud. So here's my list of movies based on real life that are relevant. And at the very end here, even if you're not an aerospace student, you should at least watch stuff like, Apollo 13, maybe Sully, but definitely Spare Parts. Okay, so here's the second list. Just movies that I've enjoyed that are based on true stories. A Street Cat Named Bob, for example. Some of these things are events that I lived through, like Big Miracle was in the news, and here's a movie about it afterwards. So I will try to leave this as a document that you can access in our Google Classroom. But if your only way of seeing things is through this YouTube video, then that's why I'm kind of pausing this long enough so that you could freeze the frame and see what the movie's title is and then decide if you want to watch it. Some of these things, like the first Olympics, you can actually find that streaming on YouTube. I and it's up to you to find different places where you can find these things. Here's the end of the second list. I can tell you that the world's fastest Indian was relevant to my mom because she loved riding Indian motorcycles. Mm, okay. And so this third list is just movies that I thought if you haven't seen them yet, you might enjoy them. Uh, some of them are a little goofy, some of them are not, but they're more or less just movies that I suggested for you students to enjoy. Okay, Wally, of course, you've probably seen. We Bought a Zoo is actually based on real life events. Some of these are just science fiction things. Mm. Also, there's a new movie out called The Way Back. Don't confuse that one with the one that's listed here. The current movie, I haven't seen it, but it has the same title. So you have to watch out for stuff like that. Snow Time is a Canadian movie, and they just made a sequel to it, Race Time. I didn't include that on the list, but at least Snow Time was on the list. You can, if you like some of these movies, you can see if they have sequels. About the science fiction movie Passengers, it has the least realistic depiction of an interstellar spacecraft that Hollywood has come up with, in the opinion of some critics. However, it's there. As a child, I loved Lost in Space, but this is a reboot, and I just enjoyed it, a connection with it, my childhood as well. One of the newest movies out on this list is My Spy, and there you go, just a fun movie to watch. You might find Klaus to be a fun movie to watch as well. And something like IO, no, that isn't fun, but there you go. All right, and that concludes my list. It's something for you to enjoy, and as always, try to find something to do productive with your family as you go through the rest of the school year and beyond. Ciao.